by giving you just a couple little reminders on how to make sure that we're entering information accurately into CAD. So I'm just going to start off by drawing a straight line here on the bottom. And then say I want this line to be 20 degrees up from the bottom here. So we can see if I move my mouse right there, you can see it says 20 degrees. I'll tab over here. You see that it says 20? So you think, oh, great, that's 20 degrees. So I didn't type it in. I just moved my mouse. That says 20. I'm going to click there. And I think that that's now 20 degrees. But if I go in and measure it with our angular dimension here, we will see that it's not. It's actually 20 and some little bit of change on there. So the reason is because I used my mouse to enter in those dimensions, and whenever you use your mouse, it's impossible to click, perfectly. So what you want to do for a situation like this is if I want my line here to be exactly 20 degrees, I want to make sure I manually punch in that dimension. So I'm going to use my tab button. I'm going to go over there and I'm going to manually punch in 20. And then just for demonstration, I'm going to hit tab again. And so now when I draw my line, as I move my mouse, I'm locked in here at 20 degrees. And if I zoom in close here, we can see that my 20 degree line actually is a little bit smaller than my other line. And if I go in and measure my angle here, I'll see that this time it's actually 20 degrees. This is really critical that you manually punch in dimensions as opposed to just kind of guessing with your mouse. Even if the software says it's the right dimensions, without manually punching those in, you're not going to get the accuracy that you're going to need. So I'll demonstrate that one more time here. So we're just creating a line. Like let's say I want to go 15 degrees. I'm going to hit tab to go over here. So now I'm punching in my angle. I'm going to go 15 degrees. Hit my enter button. And now if I dimension this, I'm going to see that it is exactly 15 degrees. So same thing when drawing rectangles and stuff. If I want to draw a rectangle that is 2 by 1, I'm going to manually punch in 2. I'm going to hit my tab. I'm manually going to punch in 1. Then I'm going to hit enter. And that's the only way to make sure that my rectangle is in fact those exact dimensions that I wanted them to be. So we just want to be less dependent on our mouse, more dependent on manual data entry on the keyboard to ensure things are correct. Okay, now a couple things you need to know for our second assignment for today, which is advanced rectangles. So I'm going to draw a rectangle here, so REC, and I'm going to select our base point, just as we always do. So here's my base point. And normally, secondly here, we would punch in where we would want our second point to be at, our other corner. But we'll notice we have a few other options here. One is area, dimension, and rotation. So area is basically the space inside your rectangle, sort of square units here. So if I gave you an area, so let's say I gave you an area of 6, what you would do is you'd hit A for area. You'd punch in what the area was. So I say an area of 6. And then now it's giving you an option of either your length or your width. So let's say I give you a width of 2. So you punch in 2. Now, when I go and I dimension my object here, we can see we have a height of 2 and a width of 3. So 3 times 2 equals 6. So we know that our area is 6. So this was a fairly easy one. I give you more complex ones. But again, if you just have a dimension and you have an area, that's how you would draw that. You hit your area option. Now, another thing, we'll just keep building on top of here. So the rectangle tool is great for drawing rectangles, but what if your rectangle goes on a slant? We don't really have any way of drawing rectangles unless they're straight up and down, which doesn't always happen. So in this case, I'm going to hit rectangle. I'm going to select my first point here of my rectangle. And I'm going to do another rectangle that is 3 by 2, but I'm going to rotate it 15 degrees. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hit rotation. I'm going to do 15 degrees. And now you'll notice, zoom out a little bit, as I draw my rectangle here, it's slanted or rotated slightly. And as I'm sure you figured out, this is rotated exactly 15 degrees. So now it's asking me to put our next base point. Now I want this rectangle to have dimensions of 3 by 2. So I'm actually going to have to put in dimension. And I'll punch in 3 by 2 again. And now we'll have to do a aligned. Oops. Okay, rectangle here. Why is this not working here? Here, rotation. 3 by 2. I was doing it real quick. Okay. So now when I do my dimensions here, sure enough, we can see that we are still 3 by 2. And then, as promised, when I do an angular dimension here, we get our 15 degrees. So we've got a rectangle here that's exactly 3 degrees. Now, there's something that's kind of a little odd about rectangles that are rotated, and that has to do with where your 2 points are. So I'm going to draw another rectangle here. I'm going to go back to a rotation of 0 here, and 3 by 2. So this time, I'm going to draw another rectangle. I'm going to rotate it 15 degrees. And instead of doing a dimension, I'm going to go 3 by 2 as far as where I want my other point to show up. So looking at this, you think, well, this is kind of weird. I punched in 3 by 2, but my rectangle clearly isn't 3 by 2 on its size, right? So clicking on these points here, I have 1 by 3. Well, that's weird. What did it do with my 3 by 2? Well, here's what it did. Okay, we clicked on our 2 points, but you'll notice if we click on this point and this point, oops, wrong dimension here. Here we have 3, and then here we have our 2. So the difference between these 2 rectangles is this one, we punched in the dimension option, and it punched in the dimensions of our rectangle. This one, we said that the second point of our rectangle should be 3 inches across and 2 inches up. So this point and this point is 3 across and 2 up, and therefore that created that rectangle that way. So I know it's kind of a little bit confusing, and that's why I give you a lot of these to do in the assignment. So you'll go through and you'll be able to check the class website to check your answers on that. But that is how we do rotated rectangles. and also entering in a rectangle when all we have is one of the sides and the area of a rectangle. Okay, any questions on rectangles?
Yeah, I'm lost.
Lost.
It didn't give me 3 and 2. It gave me 2.8978.